Did anyone unintentionally make your recovery harder, maybe with helpful comments or praise about your body? And how do you navigate that? And let me just say this. I don't When someone has lost weight, I'll just say I've learned to say you look really healthy. Because when
Hmm.
someone tells me you look really good when I've lost weight, what did I look like before?
Yes, yes. I think that that's a really great response because, yes, I have heard women talk about how they're complimented on their weight loss, and someone might say, "Oh, well, what's your secret? You look so
Yeah.
great." And I remember one woman saying, "Well, my secret is anorexia, and it is not a good
Yeah.
disorder to have." That also can be true of cancer
Yeah.
patients who are undergoing treatment, and someone will say, "Well, wow, you look so great. What's your secret?" Well, chemotherapy, right? So I think that we need to be really careful when we're complimenting people on weight loss because we don't know how people lost that
Hmm.
weight. And in many cases, it may not be healthy. And I don't think we recognize that enough because there's just so much push for weight loss in our
Yeah.
society. And yet, there are a lot of people who are struggling with the negative repercussions of that. So, part of it is being sensitive to folks who are really undergoing these bodily changes because of factors that are somewhat outside of their control. So I think for me, I was always really lucky to have a supportive family. I think my family had to really learn how to understand the eating disorder
Hmm.
because eating disorders are quite enigmatic. And I remember my father and my grandmother would sometimes say, "You're so smart, Mallory. Why can't you just figure this out,
Oh,
right?
bless
Why
their
can't you
heart.
just recover?" And I many times would hear them say, "Why can't you just eat?" And as a parent now, I can empathize with them more. I understand where they were coming from. And over time, they learned not to say those
Hmm.
things. Also, when I was in treatment, I had to eat a lot of food to try to regain weight. And I remember my grandmother visiting me at one point and saying, "Wow, that is a lot of
Oh
food."
no.
And so that was not what I needed to hear in that moment. But even in my sort of transitions outside of the hospital, lots of people would say, again, "You look great," because I'd put on weight. But that for me was not
Hmm.
helpful. So comments sort of related to my body were just not helpful, or comments related to the food I was eating, really trying to kind of set me off. So I think that those were comments that were hard to navigate, but certainly my family and I learned how to talk
Hmm.
better about the eating disorder
Hmm.
and how to talk in more productive ways about it. Also, when I was in treatment, I was lucky to be under the care of people who understood eating disorders, but there were times when clinicians would tell me, "I promise that you won't get fat." And that now is something that providers typically don't
Hmm.
say in eating disorder treatment centers because it is laced with fat phobia. And again, I understand the sentiments behind it, but it can also make people in larger bodies feel really slighted.
Yeah.
And it can also instill this fear in people with eating disorders that, "Oh my gosh, it's bad. What if I do gain weight? What if I do end up in a larger body? What does that mean?" And so I think it's really important to kind of stay away from those comments and really focus more on what it does it mean for your body to be healthy, what does it mean to be nourished and fueled, and to be really specific about the language that we use when we're talking about recovery and illness.
Yeah, I mean, what do you suggest? What would you suggest the best answer or the best response would be? Because if you walk up to somebody who you just met and you don't know that there's something going on in their life or whatever, what would be the right response? Because I want to say the right thing.
Yes. Are you asking the right response to kind of noticing maybe a change
Yes.
in their
And
weight
how they
or?
look, yes.
Yes. So I would say that sometimes you don't need to say anything,
Hmm.
right? I mean, certainly if you've noticed that they have lost a lot of weight and they look emaciated or they look like they're underweight and you're concerned, I think if you notice those changes in someone's weight and you also notice that the person perhaps has become more isolated
Yeah.
or they're really not eating much or maybe they're running off to the bathroom every time they finished a meal, if you're noticing that, I think it's really important to say
Hmm.
something and to just not accuse them of having an eating disorder, but just say, "I've noticed that your weight has changed, and I've noticed that you've retreated inward and you're not really seeming to enjoy food as much as you used to. So I just want to let you know that I'm here if you need to talk, and I
Mm.
am someone who you can trust if you feel like you want to kind of explain what's happening. And so I think that's really important. But otherwise, I would say you don't really need to comment on someone's
Yeah,
weight.
yeah,
If you feel compelled to do so, you could say, "Oh, you look so happy," or "You
yeah,
really look like you're just glowing,"
yeah.
right? And sort of shift the focus to maybe the way that their expression looks as opposed to the size of their
Right, more how
body.
they're presenting themselves, right? That's a great
Yes.
idea. You're really I love that because yeah, you're right. We shouldn't even. You're right because I was sitting there thinking even what I was saying, I meant well, but it still could be interpreted wrong, and we are so focused on weight and size and all of that. So that's yeah. You look like you're glowing. What are you doing that's so wonderful? I don't know, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, just don't focus on the weight, right?
Exactly.
Okay.